All our dignitaries on the dais, please. The Secretary Ma'am, Neelam Sahni Ma'am, please. DGNCP, Mr. Abhay. The JS, Mr. Surendra Singh. And our regional representative from UNODC, Mr. Sergey Kapinos. May we have you all on the dais, please. President of FINGODAP and Zinat Ma'am, Dr. Zinat Ma'am, the Secretary of FINGODAP on the dais, please. First of all, I would like to call Mr. T.M. Matthew from Kerala to come and felicitate our Secretary Ma'am, Ma'am Neelam Sahni. I would like a bigger round of applause, please. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Welcome, ma'am. Now I would request Mr. Bosco from Maharashtra team to come and felicitate Mr. Abhay, the DG, Narcotics Control Bureau. Ms. Ila to come and felicitate Mr. Sergey Kapinos, who is the regional representative, South Asia office from UNODC. He is a diplomat by career. He's worked in Russian Embassy, OECD, and various other international NGOs. Welcome, sir. Thank you, Ms. Ila. Mr. Rakesh Sharma to come facilitate our JS, Mr. Surendra Singh, please. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Sharma. I would now like to request Ms. Ria Roy from West Bengal to come and felicitate the FINGODAP Secretary, Dr. Zinat Ma'am. To request Mr. Nitesh to help with lamp lighting, please. All our dignitaries from the dais to come for lamp lighting, please.
ज्योत जगाओ, ज्योत जगाओ, विश्व शांति की ज्योत जगाओ, ज्योत जगाओ, विश्व शांति की ज्योत जगाओ, इस धरती के अशांति का अंधकार मिटाओ, ज्योत जगाओ,
Thank you all the dignitaries. Thank you Manish ji for helping. We have formally inaugurated the conference now. I would now like to welcome the FINGODAP Secretary, Dr. Zinat Ma'am, to come and give her welcome address. Zinat Ma'am.
It is honor and privilege for all of us to be here together today on this occasion of 7th FINGODAP conference in partnership with Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, which is being hosted by SPYM. FINGODAP journey started in 1994, and I have to mention here that it was initiative of Dr. Rajesh Kumar ji, who had privilege to work with various international organizations. He used to go throughout the length and breadth of the country. He had an opportunity to meet NGOs and understand issues and concerns, and felt need of having such fora. We NGOs feel ourselves helpless because this is such a problem. It is not supposed to be dealt only at the NGO level. Through this FINGODAP, we all major NGOs throughout the country, like the Brent, they joined this movement. They made it effective, due to which today we are sitting all of us here. Today, since we have a privilege to have new secretary in the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Madam Neelam Sahni ji, within few months, she has tried to restore whatever has been destroyed by the previous bureaucrats.
I would now like to call upon our JS Surinder Singh ji to give his address.
Now ministry and department is mainly actually is focusing that funds availability and funds flow should not be the problem, and that should be easiest. That should be very in transparent and easy manner. So what I require, when we have tried this, there are some issues which you also has to be take care of. You should also be attentive. Please see that when you are uploading the scanned document, these must be very legible. Give best of my wishes that this conference will be very successful and will be very will be helpful in effective drug demand reduction program. Thank you very much.
I would now like to request the DG, Narcotics Control Bureau, Mr. Abhay, to come and give his address. Welcome, sir.
Our law has some provisions to distinguish the two. Abuse is a public health issue, trafficking is a law enforcement issue. But what has happened is, this distinction is a fine distinction, but has not gone down the line to the criminal justice functionaries in this country. And the law is also somewhat, what will I say, well-intentioned, but probably you need to think on how to improve it. For example, an addict normally in this country is processed by the criminal justice system for long before he could go to the de-addiction way. You all are aware of our laws. There are provisions that yes, when an addict is brought to the criminal justice system, he is given an option to go the de-addiction way. But that option comes very, very late in the system. That option comes after he has been charged. Now that's a very late stage in the criminal justice system. That means his processing through the police is complete. That means he is already under prison because of the law that we are. And that means that some of the stages of trial are also complete because the charging stage in our criminal justice system comes rather late. So a forum like this needs to think and deliberate whether that late stage could be advanced a little, because that affects both criminal justice system and the addict. Our criminal justice system is already hugely overburdened. Hugely overburdened. And putting addicts through the CJS is, apart from other things, for practical consideration, overburdening criminal justice system even more. So my request to a forum like this will be, could you think of a way in which addicts are not processed by criminal justice system at all, or processed only for a very short time and then they go some other. There are all kinds of examples. I am seeing some people from the other country, they could cite theirs, but we have to find a way in which this long system does not work. Plus, we know by now, we have a research, I am very glad you have invited that author on your panel who proves that this provision of law that an addict, when he or she is processed by the criminal justice system, has an option, is very, very sparingly used. You have called that author on day 3, I saw your schedule, and she found that in thousands of cases, not even 10% of addicts actually went for de-addiction. Which means that very limited law that we have is very sparingly used, which is very sad, because then a public health issue is becoming a law enforcement issue. And the way our prisons are, anybody who undergoes a longer prison sentence, chances of his improvement are very modest, if I may say so. So my request, that is my one-point request to a forum like this, could you think a little more about this? Could you speak a little more about this? How do we distinguish the public health aspect from the law enforcement? How to ensure that addicts are not processed by criminal justice system or very promptly processed and then sent into a parallel system? And I'll also welcome if FINGODAP could document the proceedings of this conference and share with all of us. Because before I came to this conference, I tried to read the earlier proceedings of FINGODAP, and my office had no clue as to where the earlier proceedings are or whether, if at all, there were any earlier proceedings. My respects to all of you. We want to use your energy, your wisdom to improve our law enforcement. That is all from my side. Thank you very much.
I would now request our regional representatives from UNODC, Mr. Kapinos, to come and give his address. Welcome, sir.
This conference is very timely for two reasons. Reason number 2, the UN Commission on Narcotic Drugs, which has just finished the ministerial segment in its 62nd meeting, and the ministerial statement has urged at putting people first in drug policies, and this is about human rights. The second, the report of the magnitude of nature and extent of substance abuse in India 2019, which is a national survey successfully undertaken by the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment with the technical support of National Drug Dependence Treatment Center of AIMS after a gap of 15 years in India. It reveals a substantial shift in demand for proactive substances from traditional low potency plant-based products to more potent and processed products at the number, and the number are large and increasing. This is really very alarming.
I would now like to invite our Secretary Ma'am, MSJ, Ms. Neelima Sahani, to come and give her address.
For me, in the ministry, the entire work on the drug demand reduction is being done by each one of you who is sitting here. Dr. Venus had been very kind to mention words about me, but let me tell you, I'm very much conscious and grateful to God that I have had the opportunity to work in this service in this big and great country of ours. And one has always sort of tried to understand what is the mandate of whatever work has been allocated, tried to understand what is it that one has to achieve and where one has to move. It's not that every time you are successful, it's not that every time you're able to put the right things together, but one tries and tries and keeps trying. And that attempt, you're never alone. You have to really be working together as a team. And I know and I'm very much aware of the fact that the team which has to work for the drug abuse, which has to work for the problem of this menace, is all the people who are sitting here, whether they are sitting here or they are sitting here, and all of us together. And we have to take on many more people along with us if we have to achieve something. You're all aware the extent of the problem, and in the morning I think you had one session from Dr. Alok from AIMS about the results which the national survey has thrown up. More than the figures, I think it is something that you have been seeing on your everyday basis. You are working right at the field. You know what is happening. You know the extent of the problem. You also, I think, are aware that the problem has been increasing. The numbers have increased of people who are affected by this problem. And also the fact that the problem has now started for the young children, and it is not confined only to the adults. Many of our speakers have mentioned that the problem has extended to women, it has extended to young children and to our youth. And that is why I think it's all the more important that we work together and we achieve at least some results. When I talk of results, I always look at it from an individual point of view. I think a success of an IRCA, the success of any NGO, should be seen not in terms of the levels of prevalence, but in terms of whether we have been able to successfully give the service and achieve whatever has to be done for every individual. And only then, I think, the result, we would have actually had success. It's so important in this area particularly that you set for yourself a goal in which you decide to what extent you want to achieve the result. Only to the extent of detoxification, or is it to the extent of what is called social integration, or is it to the extent of the whole person recovery, and is it to the extent of even beyond that? So I think finally we have to achieve that. We have to go to the last part in order to make sure that the individual has got integrated back into the family, integrated back into the society, and every individual, every citizen of this country has a right to live a good and a proper life. And I think from that point of view, when Dr. Rajesh shows me some of the boys over here who were doing the cooking and who have got, back into the society, it is a delight to see that. So that is the expectation from, I think, which each one of us should have for ourselves. We have, as you're all aware, the only program that the ministry has had so far in this entire program for the drug demand reduction is to set up IRCAs. And we have about 450 IRCAs in the country. And I think they've been represented, almost all of them are here today. And roughly about 1 lakh of people get treatment in the IRCAs. And there was a mention both by Dr. Zeenath and my joint secretary about the releases of monies this year. So the attempt from the ministry has been that we should release that money timely on a year-to-year basis to all the IRCAs. Now, whatever is required for that, we would like to facilitate, and we would like you also to understand so that the timely release can take place. But beyond this, it would be very important and very, very necessary that all of you ensure that there is no violation of human right. Whatever you may do in IRCAs, it is not possible for us to have monitoring mechanisms in a manner that we can see what's happening in an IRCA. And the expectation is always that when it is an NGO-run program, then there would be enough sensitivity among the civil society, among the NGOs, to ensure that really that the people who come there for the treatment are treated with complete sensitivity. I think that's so very important. Even if they do not get the full treatment, it is important that we don't harm them first. I think that's the bottom line. And we should treat them in a manner as if it's your own person, your own family member. So I think that expectation is so important. My main reason today, one of the things which I really wanted to take advantage of today's meeting here together was to keep you all informed about the National Action Plan. So far, like I said, one of the major or the only intervention which we were doing for the drug demand reduction was have these IRCAs. Apart from, of course, the capacity building and the awareness generation, which we were doing mostly through the RRTCs and the NISD. But now we have sort of rolled out something called the National Action Plan. And I think this is very, very important because somewhere along the line, the state governments have been kept out of this whole attempt to tackle this problem. And the only way now we can get the state governments back, number one, is to involve them through a national action plan, and secondly to make sure that they are aware of IRCAs. By the time one secretary comes in and gets to know that there are IRCAs in the state, then there is a change. We have been focusing on treatment through the IRCAs, but the idea is to definitely make available one IRCA in each district of the country. So recently we have not been actually in the screening committee approving IRCAs if they come for a covered district. We have been sanctioning IRCAs only if they are for an uncovered district. So people who are already working in this field should definitely apply and enable us and help us to see that we have this expansion of IRCAs across the all these districts of the country. The second part is the conversion of the IRCA into treatment clinics. We don't want to confine IRCA for only inpatient service, but also to provide the outpatient service. That way we'll be able to reach out to several more people. And this strategy has been suggested to us by many of the experts, and it has worked very well in Punjab. So we definitely need to convert our IRCAs and to see that they provide not only the inpatient service, but they provide us the outpatient services also. We have already made a provision in the guidelines of IRCA, and we would request IRCAs to come forward for this kind of a conversion. The budget line has been introduced this year, so beyond IRCA, now there is another budget line for the National Action Plan, for that much amount, and the implementing agencies are all of us, I mean, and I hope that this will sort of answer to the problem that is being sort of expanding, and we are able to control it, and we are able to provide services to each and every person who needs. I had read somewhere once a news item, and in which it was mentioning, and this was a news item of a girl in America, and then there was a mention that no matter how much she tried, she was not able to come out of the problem. She went to one center, then another center. She tried to follow whatever was being advised to her. Her family supported her. And at the end of the day, she did have a child of 2 years. She wanted a child. She got the child, but she could not live beyond that. And she could not enjoy her baby. I mean, I hope that's not going to be the story of our people here. And I hope our people will be able to, and our citizens be able to really live a fruitful life.
Dr. Jayanta, who is the president of FINGODAP, to come here and give his vote of thanks.
But before this, I would like to say it was very appreciating and encouraging to us the word given by our Joint Secretary and the Secretary during the speech, how we are intending to take the program. Madam, we have two things before us. One is, how can we improve the existing program? This is one thing we have to think. The second thing is, what are the new areas we can discover? Now, what are the new areas, program we can take either in prevention or these things? I feel that we need also to strengthen the existing program also, at the same time when we take the other programs also. And especially monitoring of the ICAs is something area where we need to strengthen. Because if we do not have good monitoring tools, at the end, probably we will not find any direction in our programs. Anybody who has not mentioned here in this also, I would like to thank them for their contribution in making this conference a very, very successful one. Thank you.